What are you breaking my balls for? All right, it's about that time for another episode of Breakin Ballz with Johnny P. I'm your host for the evening, and joining me tonight, my man, my Ed McMahon, my good friend, Lou Martini Jr. What's up, Louie?
I wish I had his money. It's always a pleasure to be with the Duke of the Dudes tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I'm usually fired up to come here because we always have great guests and stuff, but tonight is a special show. I mean, you've got two of the best guests you're ever going to have in the history of, hopefully, of this long-running Johnny P. Breakin Ballz show. What can I say? I'm excited about meeting these people. I really am, really am. They got ties to my dad, too, which is fantastic.
No, it's great. I mean, how you doing? I know you had a little bit of a cold. How you been?
I had a little bit of a cold, had a little bit of a vertigo spell. For those people out there that deal with vertigo, you know what I'm talking about. Vertigo is not a pretty thing. So if I go 2 or 3 days in a row with it, I go see my physical therapist. They put the mask on. She puts you on the table. They roll you around. They clear your crystals, and I'm fine.
But Lou, not for nothing. As long as I know you're my friend a long time.
Oh, here we go.
You're always fucking sick.
Here we go. Here we go.
What's up?
Here we go.
You got more illnesses in the book.
I'm ill. I'm constantly ill. Yes, I am. It's the dark cloud, Johnny, that hangs over my head. What can I say? You know what I'm saying?
No, but we got great guests tonight. I mean, my first guest up tonight, she's the most recent, the last. I don't even know how to say it.
Give it a number. Was it number 5, number 6? We don't know what it is. What is it? Number 4?
The most famous Italian comedian, Pat Cooper. We have his most recent wife with us tonight. We have Emily Cooper with us tonight. How you doing, Emily?
I'm fine.
Throw it to Emily, John. Will you please throw it down?
You just got me started because I didn't know what that. Everyone made me start laughing, but yeah.
Yeah. So in other words, I'm the third wife and I'm the last woman standing, basically.
Listen, and that's all that matters. And my second guest tonight is a colleague of mine. He's a friend of mine for at least 25 years. We all started off a long time ago, but he actually made a life. Me, I'm still hanging by a thread, but I'm here. And he's known in America for the 44th top radio talk show host, the one and only, my man,
legendary
Frank Morano.
Yes.
Radio being what it is,
WABC.
there's only 50 talk show hosts left in America.
And you're number 44.
Radio, so
that's all it is, 50?
No, I'm just joking. It's great to be here. It's great to see you, Lou. Congratulations on beating the vertigo. I knew you could do it.
Yes, thank you. Thank
Johnny,
you.
it's a real treat, but it's a real honor to be here with Emily. I had no idea. I knew she was the favorite wife. I had no idea she was the most recent. But she's as beautiful and charming as she is intelligent and delightful. So it's wonderful to be sitting next to her. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you both. And she's a sweetheart. And she said nothing but great things about you. And then when I told you about
she doesn't know me as well as you do.
and then you said the same thing about that, because I always try to let the guests know, especially you, Frank, and like, you know, she always said a lot of great things. So I'm glad I was able to make this work tonight because it works out perfectly. And I just started laughing.
Because she's not a local. Emily doesn't live here. She lives in Vegas, I believe,
That's
right? She's out in Vegas with all the glitz and glamour out there.
Well, I was
right?
coming out for Christmas anyway, so I came out a day early to be here.
And you know what? It's very rare. And I heard Frank talking about it on the radio the other day. I never come out or have a drink before I come on the show, but I had a couple hours, so I had an espresso martini. So it was just
exactly what you need.
A little funny. So like when I was announcing it, everyone started laughing, so they threw me off balance. But either way, it's all great.
And did you complain about the price of your espresso martini
no,
like you
because
usually
where
do?
I go, it's the Rock House on Staten Island. It used to be right down the block from the famous factory in Princess Bay. And a friend of mine actually texted me because they have a marquee in there, and I made a deal with the lady. She goes, "Could you promote the place?" Since I go, "I'll promote you if you put my flyer and my advertisements on your marquees." So he sent me a picture of my advertisement.
Oh, great.
He goes, "I got to see you everywhere." I go, "Where are you?" He goes, "I'll be there in 10 minutes." But they have happy hour from 12 o'clock to 7 o'clock every day.
Well, what do you get for it? What are their happy hour prices like?
Half price. So everything. So it's all good.
We
Me
gotta
and
check it
Frankie
out.
boys got to definitely go there. And they got great food. So let's talk. Frankie, what's going on, man?
I don't know where to begin. Quite a bit.
Everything.
Excited to be here.
Are you
There's a
working
lot
tonight?
going
I
on.
can't believe you're here,
I
first
am,
of all.
and neither can I.
Okay.
It's one of those things that when I agreed to do this, it was 2 months, 3 months in advance. It might as well be 5 years in advance.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. such and such a thing. Sure. And then you don't expect time to actually pass. And right, I actually have to
Frank,
go
it
to
seems
that
like
tonight.
yesterday.
Yeah, but I'm thrilled to be here, and everything's going well. I don't know what I'm talking about on the radio tonight, so hopefully I'll got to steal some content from you guys.
No, listen.
Johnny says, first of all, your schedule is crazy. He gave me a little bit of your schedule from when you get up in the morning to when you leave the job. And it's just like, how can one man do everything that you do in
Yeah,
one day?
Frankie, tell us.
Raising a
give us an
family.
itinerary.
Yeah,
It's sick.
I ultimately, I'm happy to share my schedule, but I'm not exactly digging ditches or doing brain surgery. So I get to have a lot of fun. And, if I don't do my job well one night, nobody dies. The world continues. So it's a very low pressure thing in that respect. But I'm on the air every morning live from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. And then people could check out the podcast. They could listen anywhere in the world at WABCradio.com. We're on a lot of great radio stations around the country, including K-Dawn in Las Vegas. But there is if people can't stay up at that time, they can always catch up the podcast. Just go to FMWABC.com. So I usually get home around 6:30 a.m. or so. I usually go to sleep pretty soon after. I'm up around 12:31. I will start preparing for that day's show for an hour and a half or so, do whatever household chores, take out the garbage, get yelled at for not paying whatever bill I was supposed to pay. And then I'll pick up my son from school around 2:30. I'll spend the afternoon with him until 5. Then my wife finishes work. She'll look after him, and then I'll prepare for that night's show. I usually leave my house around 10, head to the radio station, and you do 4 hours of radio, and then that's that. That's
Sick.
pretty much every day.
Amazing. It is.
It's a
amazing.
grind. Now, when you do Ask Frank Anything on Fridays, that's done the night before?
Well, I mean, it's Friday morning.
Yeah. So
right.
technically, you're off on, after that, you're Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday you go back in, right?
Yeah, Sunday night. So it's basically Sunday night through Thursday night, Monday through Friday morning, basically.
And Frank, you can move over just a little bit.
Thank you.
Just so we can see that whole.
You're trying to move me away from Emily. I
That
know
whole
what you're
beautiful
up to.
face.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know how you do it. I mean, that's.
Well, as I said, it's a lot of fun. It's basically just having conversations like this with interesting people.
Well, you've been doing this forever, and you got mentored by Joe Franklin, and when Frank was at. Could we mention it? When he was
I don't know what you're about to mention, so give it a shot.
When he started
hopefully.
out at public access, I was in public access, but he hooked up with Joe Franklin, and Joe Franklin gave him his desk. How did you actually hook up with Joe Franklin? Because we didn't talk about that.
I just called him up. Joe was one of those people. His number was listed, so he was in the phone book. Right? You could call him up, and he would answer the phone himself. And it takes a while before you realize Joe's whole act in answering the phone. And you call him up, and you get to speak for maybe 10, 15 seconds. Yeah. And then, I'll say, Joe, this is Frank Morano. I have a talk show. I'm a huge fan of yours. I've been able to use your desk. And he says, Frank, listen to me. I got 60 minutes in here right now. They're filming 30 minutes at a time. Do me a favor. Call me Thursday at 3:30. Promise me. Thursday at 3:30. You call back Thursday at 3:30. Frank, it's Joe. It's Frank Morano. You told me to call you at this time. I called the other day I do that talk show on Staten Island. Frank, I want to talk to you. I'm in the middle of something. I'm on my way out the door.
Call me Tuesday.
Critical.
I love these
Please call me
stories.
Monday morning, 9:30 a.m. And then you just go and like this for a while. And then I realized that this is
you
every
wanna
single
strangle the
So
guy.
I just went there. I went to his office. He was super nice, and I just kind of hung out there. And then I would just keep doing that. I would just go there and hang out in his office all day long. I would answer the phone. I would give people the runaround. And then one time, this is many, many years ago, my mom worked right near him, and he was sick. He had a cold or something, so she brought him some chicken soup or something. And he had always a soft spot for pretty ladies. So he had my mom just stay in his office for 3 or 4 hours. And then after that, whenever I needed anything from Joe, he was always a mensch and always came through. But he was such a great guy, and he was a friend to me when I was really nobody. Not that I'm somebody now, but then when I was doing a public access TV show, he would always come on. And then when I started to do a radio show on a real station like AM 970, I was on Sunday mornings. He would listen obsessively to this show, and he would call me after every single show. The show was over at 8:30. He'd call at 8:31. I'd be wrapping up post-production, and he'd call, and then I would not answer right away. He'd call back 5 minutes later, and I said, Frank, I'm sorry, I was listening. Great show. This was the greatest show I've
cool is
ever
that,
heard.
though?
But he would say, listen, There was a news item at 4:30. The last words of the news item were, "And they'll never be the same." What was that news item? Joe, I don't know. I said, Frank, listen to me. Is there any way you can get me the audio of that news? Now, I don't know what show he's preparing for. He's doing 5 minutes a week, and he's having me go pearl diving for these nuggets of obscure things that would throw. And then if you were, and Johnny knows, if you'd go into Joe's office, it was like that episode of the Twilight Zone.
Well, he had an
with
open
Burgess
door
Meredith.
policy. First of all, you'd walk in there and there'd be all kinds of people.
It was a
in there.
huge office, but there was no room because it was filled with books and books and tapes and records.
Clutter.
And so he said, "Frank, I heard you do that interview with this author. What was that? What was that book that he wrote?" And I don't remember what the name of the book was.
He was training.
And he'll say, "Can you get me a copy of that book?" And I'm thinking, Joe, you don't have time to read the 9,000 books that are currently waiting in your office. Are you sure you need this book? And he says, "Yeah, no. I want to read what you read. Give me a copy of that book." So he was just the world's greatest guy, but always very much in character as Joe Franklin. Whenever anybody would die, doesn't matter if it was somebody that he actually knew, like Pat Cooper, who I actually got to meet through Joe, or someone that he had never met, he would always tell almost the exact same story. When someone would die, Charlie Chaplin, for instance, would die, and he would tell the same story. He says, his daughter came over to me after he died and said he would watch you on television every night. He always wanted to come on. He never had the courage to ask. Now, Charlie Chaplin lived in Switzerland for the last 40 years of his life, but somehow he had a satellite hookup to Channel 9. But he was just a great guy, and I miss him a great deal.
For the young people out there, he was basically the Johnny Carson of local New York television.
He started it.
Started a lot of different people out. And me and Johnny, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It was really a damn shame, talk about Breakin Ballz, when they had the memorial that we were at that a lot of people that should have been
Frankie,
there
you were with us, weren't you?
There.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, at the Actors Temple.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Richard Bay, me, you, Steve Gurman, who our guest is going to bring up some funny stories.
But
later.
I'm talking about stars that he started out.
No,
Barbara
I know
Streisand
that.
and people like that. He gave them their first television appearance, and would have been nice for them to show up.
I mean, he was on television in New York. Obviously, his radio career is legendary, but on TV from 1951 to 1993, every single day. That's a record that I don't know will ever be broken. And, for all the people that kind of never paid the proper homage to him once they became stars, there were a lot of stars that always did come back once they did become big stars. He always gave credit to Bill Cosby, whatever people think of him, because even after Bill Cosby was the highest paid sitcom star in America, he always came back to do Channel 9. A lot of other folks as well. John Lennon, he always said the same thing about and other folks. So he's a great guy.
Did Pat ever do the show?
Oh, yes.
Many times.
Pat did the show. I'm sure he did, right? Yeah.
And I remember he used to say, like, Barbara Streisand and some of these other people used to they used to walk across the street because they didn't want to remember where they were from. And he goes, that's what you're going to get. But yeah, man, I mean, listen, Joe, you were blessed to know Joe a lot longer, but I was blessed enough to know him the little time that I did. Just one last question, and then we're going to go to Emily fast. How did the desk come about? That was a question I always wanted to ask you.
It's really so mired in mystery and in him making up things that I'm actually not really sure of what the ultimate truth is. But I'll tell you the version that we go with. The version we go with is that it was in storage and they were getting rid of it, and he took a liking to me and gave me his desk to use.
That's great.
I'm not 100% sure that's true, but that's the version I'm going with.
And I remember back at CTV back in the day, I'm like, yeah, Frank's got Joe Franklin's desk. I go, how the hell did he get Joe Franklin's desk?
Nobody knows for sure how that came.
Where's that desk now?
They threw it in the garbage because it was falling apart.
Oh, yeah, it was
because
falling.
after you left, everybody and their mother used it.
That should be in a Smithsonian.
That's
You
why
kidding
with
me?
my stuff, I have a big sign I wrote and a tape that says, property of the Up Late with Johnny Potenza show, do not use.
Johnny, can't we recreate it, get a new one made exactly like that, a replica? You know all these carpenters.
Yeah,
and
you
stuff.
could. But you know what? That desk was so big, it's kind of
I know, it
outdated.
is. Very
now
outdated.
everything is low.
That's why
right?
Joe got rid of it.
Yeah, and it was almost like Judge Judy's desk.
Yeah. No, it was a desk for two people, basically. That's what they would do.
So, Frank, that's a great story. We're going to come back to you in a little while. So, Emily, talk to us.
I want to talk to you about Joe Franklin. If anybody would give me a chance over here.
Sorry.
No,
You know how this guy is.
now it's your spotlight. Go for it.
No, I had the privilege of meeting Joe Franklin and going to his office. And Joe Franklin, you can't really describe his office, right? It was like he was the hoarder of every piece of memorabilia in entertainment. I mean, and I've got a photo of myself. I wish I'd brought it. It's hilarious. I'm just kind of sitting there in a hole of stuff. But I don't even remember what the desk looked like because you couldn't see the desk,
Right.
you know? But he was such a nice man, and he did interview everybody. And I was a Broadway producer. I worked on shows, and I had the opportunity to actually seat him when he came to see the Ann Richards play that we did at Lincoln Center. Mm-hmm. He came to the show. But what a sweet man and a character. You know, he was a legend. There's no question. So, but he was on, Pat was on his show many times. So, that was just one of my, because I lived in New York for 21 years. I love Vegas, but I have wonderful stories, and I miss my days in New York, But I was tired of the weather.
What do we have to do to get you back here?
I'm just going to go back and forth.
Okay,
all
right.
And you know what it is, guys? And you go right back to you. I was never a big Joe Franklin fan. I was a Johnny Carson fan until I met Joe Franklin, And after I met him, I kind of got awed to him.
Yeah.
And then that was it. I became a real fan. I started watching him the first time when he had the Ramones on the show. And then after that, I go, this guy's pretty cool. But Joe Franklin was more the nostalgia guy, the serious guy, the smart guy. Johnny Carson was more the knock-around guy. And I really wasn't a book-smart guy. That's why I didn't gravitate him until years later. And then now I love Joe Franklin. I can't get enough of him. I can't even find enough of stuff to watch,
Well, he would also be at the Friars Club, which, one of the last times I was there for a big event was when they dedicated the monastery to Jerry Lewis, which was, 2013, I believe?
So, yeah.
Everybody was there. Remember, they closed down the street, but he was there that night. Pat was there. Everybody was there. But it's really kind of sad because they did sell the building this past week, and so everybody's kind of been talking about it. It's an era that's gone, and Joe was one of the last people. Pat's one of the last people. It's hard to say goodbye to the era. So I'm very passionate about that. I always felt like I was born too late. I was born in 1970. I missed everything. But so I feel very privileged that I've been able to be around some of the last characters. Even like Dean Martin's daughter, I've gotten to know. And
yeah, Dina's a dear friend of mine also.
So, but people who, and the Rat Pack is Back show in Vegas that they're doing, I'm very passionate about that era. And I fell in love with Frank Sinatra when I was 30. He had just died, but it took me that long to really appreciate the music. But
I always tell Frank that we got to relive of course, a lot of people probably tell him that, and a lot of people want to do that. I always want to relive the Rat Pack in our era right now. And every time I tell him, he goes, whatever you're ready. I'm sure hundreds of people tell him, and everyone says anything. Give us a story. Tell us how you met Pat, and then let's get into some of these people where you want to break some balls. Since this is Breaking Ballz with Johnny B. And we all know these people, so we're going to stay biased and just stay out of it. We're going to let you make us laugh.
Look, I don't want to get crazy or anything
You can
like
do
that.
whatever you want, but
I met Pat at his book party at the Friars Club in 2010. Jackie Martling took me there.
And that's who you were. That was your second husband, or that was your boyfriend?
I've never been married until I met Pat.
Okay.
Until I married Pat.
So
right?
that was your first.
Pat
so
was
that was your first, and you were his third.
Do you need another martini?
I would love for Johnny to be in charge of setting you up with someone and describing your romantic history, because that would be delightful. It's Emily. She's the most recent wife she met, but it was her third husband.
Yeah. So anyway, I met Pat that night, but he actually lived nearby me, which was a funny story, around the corner, and I got to know him over many years. But Pat, I got to spend many years with him just hanging out in New York. He was such a fun guy to hang out with. He was such a young soul, and he was a ball breaker. So it's appropriate that I'm on the show because I was with him for 5 years every day, all day. And he people ask me, Do you, since you were so much younger, was he, easier on you? What was he like to be around? Well, I'll tell you, he was very sweet. He had a huge heart, but no one was safe from his wrath, especially me.
Especially Miss Lola Falana, which is the legendary.
Oh, Lola Falana, forget about
there
it.
There is a clip of him on, remember this one?
Yeah.
He was on Tom Snyder's Tomorrow Show.
I love that show.
And he goes off on Tom Jones and Lola Falana like nobody's business.
Right.
And it's funny, we talked off camera. My Uncle Sonny, Severio Cerritos, was a very famous singer back in the 60s and 70s. Worked with Pat many times, was friendly with Pat. You had met him a couple of times. It's funny what a small world and people meet and stuff like that. And the same thing, I miss that world. I grew up in that world. My dad was the MC at the Copa for a few years and stuff. And I have memories of playing with Pat Cooper when I was younger, of Red Skelton being in my living room doing Clem Cadiddle-Hopper to me. I mean, it's so sad that this
Did you have the
world,
record
we're losing
Homemade
him.
Wine? Remember the record Homemade
Yes,
Wine?
yes, yes,
Pat was a
yes.
singer. Pat sang. A lot of people
Yes,
didn't even know that.
Yes, and my aunt played the I forget the name of the album, the one with the sandwich on it.
Our
Played
hero.
Played it to death. And
Our
her
hero,
favorite
yeah.
bit was the sole of the shoe. He didn't have any toys, but the sound of the shoe. One of the greats. Yeah, I missed that time.
Well, the
so
whole
bad
Lola
too.
Falana thing on Tom Snyder, of course, Joe Piscopo did on Saturday Night Live. He did that bit. And
I've never seen that. Piscopo did that bit.
But I did a whole reel for Pat's memorial that we did. We did one at the Italian American Museum here, which Joe helped me host.
Right.
Joe Piscopo, and that was lovely. But we had that part of that clip in there, talking about Lola
I gotta
Falana, where
see
he's
that. I
losing
gotta
it. Oh,
see
it's
that.
hilarious.
I gotta
But I
see
mean,
that.
he was kind of the first person to really break balls, quite frankly, on TV, and that
big time.
Yeah, and so it was. Everybody said, "Oh, Pat, I can't believe you're doing this. You're ruining your career." He said, "No, I'm not. I'm upping my price." And he talks about it in his book, and he did. He did.
It's still a great book, by the way. Can people still buy it on Amazon?
Yes,
and elsewhere?
They can buy it. Yeah, yeah,
It's,
I love
How
the
Dare You
title.
Say,
How dare you say, how dare me?
yeah. How dare you say, how dare me? It's funny, and it's really in his voice.
Now, let me see that, because I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, that's an
first.
audio book. I'd love to hear if it's in his voice.
Is
Well,
it an audio
it's
book?
unfortunate
No,
that
they
they did
should
not
be.
do that.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe, Frank, you should do the audio.
Hey, who did Pat like? Who was he very fond of? Because we know who he didn't like. Who was he? Who would you say he was close to?
Who he was close to? I'll tell you some of the people.
Entertainment-wise.
Entertainment-wise, well, we got to know Shecky Green really well.
Oh,
and
geez, one of the greats, yeah.
Because Shecky had just moved to Las Vegas when we got out there. So for 2 years, we got to really spend time with him.
Is he still alive, is Shecky Green?
He died on New Year's Eve.
Oh, jeez.
But I got really close to Shecky and his wife. They were really good to me after Pat died, but we had a lot of fun with them. And they were two of the last guys from that era. They got to sit around and talk. But Shecky, and we went out with Rich Little quite a few times, for dinner, because he lives right there.
What about Johnny Carson? Yeah, right?
No, Pat has a story in his book.
Was he on Johnny Carson?
Yeah, he was on
Yeah,
Johnny.
I thought so.
Pat, he did all the shows.
But he has a story in the book about Johnny Carson, how Johnny peed on his shoe in the bathroom, in the men's room.
On purpose or by accident? Were you drunk?
Accidentally. He was a little tipsy, you could say.
Oh, Pat probably got pissed.
He got pissed on.
Oh, you didn't know the story. I gotta read that
read the
part.
book.
Yeah. Now listen, I gotta ask you this, because this is a question for the Asians, because it says, as told
Wait,
by
a question for the Asians? Did he just say?
Well,
Yeah, that's a
we'll-
saying. A question for the Asian, because usually the Chinese people know what the.
I never heard that. Where did
Yeah,
you
I
get that
haven't
from? A
either.
question for the Asians?
Yeah.
I've heard maybe a question for the ages.
You know.
No, but I'm going to start
for the
saying
age.
that.
That was
That's
in
great.
Analyze This. That's a question for the Asians.
Okay.
So, how do you say Rich's last name?
Okay, so Rich Hirschlag is a great writer. So Pat basically recorded, his stories into a microphone. Steve Guerin pressed the button. I don't know what else he did. But he managed to get a copyright on that book, copyright credit. And he also continued to tell people that he was Pat's manager, which is not true.
Okay.
But
So Steve had nothing to do with the writing of the book.
as far as I know, no. But Rich Hirschlag's a great writer.
Right.
Pat spoke, but Steve, was.
What does it say by Rich Herzog and Steve Garrett?
Yeah, because that's what I heard through the grapevine too.
As told to.
As
Rich
told
Hirschlag.
to.
Yeah.
Oh, it's told to. Okay.
Like
It's a-
forwarded.
Yeah.
I heard through the grapevine too that Steve was his manager until I talked to you.
Yes,
know?
I asked Pat 2 times. He screamed at me, "No!" Anyway, that's how that sort of happened. And I believe, Steve was certainly, instrumental in that happening, in that book getting done. Pat would not have done that on his own. He probably didn't want to. But it's great because he tells some great stories in there. And he's got a lot of funny stories. But I will tell you, there were a lot of stories that he had that he did not put in the book because he didn't want to hurt certain people and their kids, He did the right thing by that. But,
which is good.
Yeah, no, it is. And there's some great pictures in there. So I'm glad he did that book.
Yeah, it's a great book, everybody. Let me get a shot.
It's funny.
You check it out. You get it on Amazon. It's a real good read. And you know what? It seems like yesterday that it was out, and you said when I looked it up the other day, 2011.
Yeah,
right.
And Steve Guerin's fortunately still around. I'm sure he'll sign the book for people if they can, if they find him. He'll be happy to sign a copy.
He won't even charge you if he doesn't know you.
Steve, we're breaking your balls
Steve,
tonight.
we can say fuck. We're fucking with you, Steve. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So, there was another person I wanted to mention tonight because I was just a little bit confused. A few years ago, back in 2020, I got a phone call from some of Pat's buddies down in Florida. They were yelling about the fact that Steve Sharippa was on a podcast breaking Pat's balls, and I don't know why. He was being really mean and disrespectful, and I don't know why. And I'm just curious. I'd like to know from Steve why. What were you, bullying a 90-year-old for? What did he do?
Maybe Louis could answer this question. I met Steve once.
No comment.
That's right. You're being smart.
Comment.
I met him once when I did background Sopranos. He was nice, but I guess, listen, everybody has their moods, but who knows?
But I worked with him.
But there's never an excuse for bad behavior.
No.
That's all. There's never an excuse to be disrespected. So we could talk off camera.
I worked with him on a goofy project 10 years ago, and he was nice to me and everything, but I just didn't understand why he'd do that to Pat. So, but I will tell you that I'm starting a new show in Las Vegas called Legends and Laughs. And we're going to be talking, we're not necessarily going to be breaking chops, but we're going to be talking about, I'm going to be interviewing some of the old entertainment and the new entertainment and, talking about the old days. And because there are a lot of people still around. Wayne Newton, Jimmy Walker's out there. We're going to get Rich Little. Frankie Avalon wants to do the show.
That's great.
I was hanging out with him, with his son the other night. But Frankie's great. I'm going to see them because he's coming back to Vegas to do a show. He's still doing a great job in his on stage. Engelbert's doing a great job on stage.
I love all those guys. I mean, my mom and dad listened to all that stuff that got me into it. I love like Tony Orlando too.
Yeah.
I love all those old
Yeah,
guys.
Great guy too. Tony's a great. Have you had him on the
Frankie
show?
many
times.
times. Frankie knows all those guys.
Great guy.
So Sunrise Studios, where I'm going to be doing this this broadcast, they're calling it, is owned by Tony Orlando's brother-in-law, Marvin, and it's a beautiful studio. So when anybody from New York comes out there too, they can come out and.
It's funny. How
will people be able to listen to it once it's?
It's going to be over the whole spectrum of social media. It'll be live. It'll be streaming live on Facebook.
So people should search your name, Emily Connor?
Well, they can go to my Instagram, @Emily's Las Vegas. And then we're going to announce it actually officially.
Yeah, you're going to have to promote the living hell of it.
Yeah. No, they are.
We may
These
have to
guys
come
are
out
too.
to Las Vegas for the podcast launch party.
Listen,
right,
we got to
Johnny?
do the official Rat Pack launch.
I was there last month, and one of the most depressing things about it, and same thing in Atlantic City. When you're driving into Vegas, whatever road that is, and when you're driving on the Pike, whatever, Atlantic City, and you used to look at the billboards, it was like, wow, look at that guy's going to be there, and that guy's going to be there, and that guy's going to be there, and now you look at the billboards, it's like,
it's all
who
lawyers.
is that?
Yeah,
It's all lawyers.
It's so depressing.
Right.
No, it is.
Who
It's
is
depressing.
that?
Billboards, I always love looking at them.
But there's no great entertainers anymore. You know what I'm saying? The greats. You drive down the thing and you see that Paul Anka was going to be there, or Pat Cooper was going to be there, Sammy Davis Jr. And now it's like Joe Blow and his trombone or whatever. It's really depressing.
Well, I am going to see
but
Wayne
you bringing
Newton.
that stuff back is great.
Yeah, and Wayne Newton, I'm going to go see him on December
That's
30th.
great.
Oh, outstanding.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
I'm going
And
to
how
his
old
show.
is Wayne Newton these days? 80s?
He's in his mid 80s, but he's still hanging in there well.
Donkey Shane.
Yeah, Donkey Shane. Yeah, so he's still doing his thing. But Jimmy Walker too, you got to give him credit. He's
love
on the road
JJ.
a lot. Yeah,
I did an autograph signing show with him one time.
And
Good
he's
man.
such a
Good man.
sweet
He's
guy.
got
Love
stories
Pat.
too.
Yeah, he was actually a radio engineer at WMCA in New York.
Oh, yeah?
When Bob Grant was working there, and Alex Bennett, and John Sterling back in the day. And he's got some great stories about working working in radio with all these guys as an engineer for these guys.
That's awesome.
He's really a tremendous talent with a lot of great stories to tell.
Who would you say is your biggest influence, Frank?
You know,
as far as back in the day on the radio,
I don't know if there's one, but there's many. You know, Joe was certainly up there. I really enjoyed listening to Bob Grant and Jay Diamond amazing. Growing up. Loved all of the John Gamblings, especially John R. Gambling. I'm a big fan of Howard Stern.
Was that Rambling with Gambling, if I remember right?
Yeah. Well, there were 3 generations, John B. Gambling, John A. Gambling, and John R. They were on for
myself here,
78 years.
What about Martin Blanc, yeah?
Yeah, no, that was Joe's guy. But no, there's still a room named for Martin Blanc at the Friars Club, but no, I never, that was a little bit
Let me ask you a question,
time.
Frank, about Howard Stern. He was the king and he was the best. What do you, with him turning the way he turned with the politics, I mean, do you think he had to do it, or you think he just went that way, or you think he's comfortable now?
It's such a fashionable thing to take a shot at Howard Stern.
And I'm not even taking a shot.
No, I know you're not, but a lot of people do because, he's more outspoken about, being for certain political figures and everything. The guy's been on the radio for 40 years, right? More than that. You've been on for 25 years, me too. You're not doing the same type of show now that you were doing 25 years ago. When he was first starting to do stuff in radio, throwing bologna slices at women's behinds and stuff like that. He's in his late 20s, early 30s, a different guy. He's a grandfather now in his 70s. I think it's silly for people to expect that he's going to be doing exactly the same type of show that he was doing 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Your interests change, your sensibilities change, your levels of testosterone may change. I don't think there's anything wrong with him evolving, if that's what he sees it as, with the times. And you know what? He's super wealthy. He doesn't need to be doing this. I still find the show pretty entertaining.
I watch his stuff.
What I always say to people is, if you don't like listening to it, don't listen.
Yeah, exactly.
No one's forcing you.
Yeah.
Me and my father, and then I'm sorry, we used to drive to work, and my father used to turn it on all the time. He goes, I really don't like Howard Stern, but I want to see what he's going to say.
Yeah.
But I always used to love him. But he still interviews everybody that's great. I just don't, me with the political stuff, I just try to stay out of it. But like with Van Halen, he still interviews everybody, and he's a great interviewer. And he,
I think so. But even more than that, I find him to be a great storyteller.
Yes,
I could listen to him talk about a story of him just having difficulty going to the market and buying something. I could listen to that for days.
Well, he's a good interviewer too.
Exactly. No, I think he's terrific.
Yeah. No,
I enjoyed his interactions with Pat over the years, especially when Pat would get really fired up. Yeah.
Well, the knock with him now is that the one thing that people are perturbed about, I would say, is he was so anti-establishment.
Right,
at the
that's
beginning,
fair. That's
and
fair.
now he's kind of become part of the establishment.
I'll tell you what, that's the main thing I meant.
If you give me $1 billion, I will happily be part of the establishment.
Yeah, exactly.
Could be. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe Oprah.
I'd like to try it.
Maybe Oprah threw some money in his pocket. Who knows?
I'd like to try it.
But who knows? So what's your next move now besides the podcast? I mean, how's life for you these days?
Well, for the last year since Pat died, he died a year and a half ago, I've been working on some things for his legacy, like the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens. We got a paver laid down for him there. The Italian American Museum, we had the event for him there. We're going to do an exhibit there this in 2025. Last year was, or actually 2023 was the 60th anniversary of Pat's very first show that he ever did in Las Vegas, which was opening for Bobby Darin at the Flamingo.
Wow.
So I found in the Neon Museum boneyard, walking through there one day, an old piece of the Flamingo sign, the plume, part of the plume, and I said, what do we have to do to light this up? And so we raised the money to put it back together and had a big event in his honor.
Where did you find this?
At the Neon Museum in Las Vegas. They try to save all the signs that they can, but it's very expensive to restore them.
Right.
So we were able to raise the money for that. But we lit it up for it was their annual ball. So it was all for Pat, really, that was the main focus of the event, and it was wonderful. And we, 3, 2, 1, lit up the pink sign.
Fantastic.
And it was really great. But I'm working on things for Pat's legacy, but for the most part, I need to move forward. He would want me to obviously move forward. And I'm a producer. Before 100%. I met Pat, I was producing events, and I worked in Broadway, and I need to keep doing that. So,
Have to.
yeah. And, but this is, fun. A radio show will be fun, but I also want to travel. I want to go to Italy and, I want to really see Italy. I've been there once. I need to go back. But I love show business, and my mother was in show business. She was one of the Serendipity Singers, which is a folk group from the 60s. Mm-hmm. So she came from Pat's show business era, too. So it was kind of fun for them to hang out, too, although that she was his mother-in-law, who was 80. She was 13 years, I think, younger than him, but whatever. I come from that. I've been in show business, around show business all my life, so I love it.
Emily, I didn't know about your mother's background, but I'm not surprised. But given your history in show business, given everything that you heard from Pat over the years, and given your conversations with your mom, I'm struck by what Lou was saying about how there's been such a change in live performances over the years, and how these billboards that used to be Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra are now, declare bankruptcy by 800, calling 800 no cash. I'm wondering what all three of you think about kind of how show business has changed over the last 10, 15 years, especially, and migrated more towards social media and things like that. When I was starting in radio, if someone said they had a podcast, you would scoff at them and say, oh, they can't get on real radio. They're doing a podcast. Now, if you meet someone that's on radio, everyone says, oh, what's the matter with them? Why can't they get a podcast? So there's such a change in how people consume all forms of media. Do you think that those days of people holding live performers, whether it's comedians, whether it's Broadway, whether it's musical numbers, in high regard, do you think that'll ever be back? Will the rubber band snap back in that direction, or is this where we are? Is it always about how many Instagram likes you can get?
I think it may go back a little bit. Look, vinyl's coming back, right? Everybody's collecting vinyls.
Cassettes have been hot the last
you know
couple
what?
of months.
And I just sent 100 cassettes to Holland. No, I did. My graphic art guy, Gene Ramsey, he does all my artwork. So I gave him $50 for free, and he got a guy to give me $25 each a cassette, because I have hundreds of cassettes, and they were in good condition. Because anything I keep, nostalgia, it was good. And what am I going to do with all this stuff? I'm trying to downsize. I'm keeping what I want. So I sent them. The other guy, 50, gave me $25 each for the cassettes. But yeah, cassettes are coming back. Albums are a lot of money, though. You're paying $27 to $30 for one album, $38 to $48 for a double album set if you're going to buy them. But they're on 180 gram. If you're an album collector, it's worth it.
I just feel like people are becoming more nostalgic, and they're missing the old days and the simpler times, because things are getting out of control. I just want the younger generations to learn, like your children, to learn and know about Sinatra and that music, that era of music. I
mean, to Frank's point, I just came back from Vegas and had some pitch meetings, my partner and I, because I'm also a writer and a producer, and we're trying to do a couple of movies. And the first thing that's always asked in a meeting is not if the person can sing or if they can act or if you like their work or whatever. It's like, well, how many followers do they have?
Yeah.
It just really becomes such an important thing. Your star meter, there's on the International Movie Database, which is like the number one go-to to look up people like myself, our resumes and things like that. We all have a ranking. And depending on how many hits you get, I've been as low as, like, if I have an episode of The Sopranos is on, I've been as low as like number 220 in the whole show business. And then if I don't have something on for a couple of months, I drop down to 65,000. Yeah. And casting people and producing people, actually looking at these numbers, and it's becoming a very important for you to have a certain number before they even look at your tape to see if you can act or sing or produce. It's just it's a scary thing. You would hope that eventually this could turn. But we'll see. The time will tell, right, John?
Excuse me, just to jump in with this, it's true, because there's a lot of people that have been doing stuff for so many years, and it's like, say, like, if you don't have a social media marketing company working for you, paying every month, and you have to do all that grind every day. You have to be on social media every day, a couple of times a day, to keep up with the jokes and get hits. So me, I'm a local guy. Underground, I got a big following. Worldwide, no one knows who the hell I am. East and West Coast, underground, but I don't have the viewership and the hits and the followers that I should have from all the years of the work that I've been doing. Unless you have a company behind you, or someone is paying that social marketing media company that's on your stuff every day, posting 3 times a day with the algorithm and the certain times of the day that you have to do it. That's so important with social media. and getting the hits, and that's what stinks. You could have great content and be great, or be a great singer. You could even suck and have 1 million hits. They're going to say, wow, Lou got let's just say, Lou's got 1 million hits. Okay, let's check out his stuff. And that's the problem. And people come like, you got all this stuff and you got all these. I go, how come you don't got the? I go, there's only so many hours in the day. And I'm a blue collar guy, so I have to work. So it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I did 110% in the music business, it would have been a whole different game.
But when you go home tonight, go on IMDb and look at the star meters and see who's like number 35 or something. It'll be somebody you've never heard of before, but just this person is paying a company to get the 1,000, 1,500.
So the lower
hits
it is, that's the better it is.
Like Tom Cruise could be one.
Okay. Is that a good investment, Lou? If you want to pay a company,
I've actually done it before. I've done it before.
And does it pay off though?
I don't think it did because
it's a great investment if you get the right person, but it's going to cost you a lot of money, Frank.
It depends. But again, it depends who you are. At this point, people know me, so my number doesn't matter to most people. Maybe the newer producers coming in that might not know me, they might look at the numbers, But if you're a new person in the business and you want to get some recognition, you can go from 6 million and two to 9,000 by paying a company.
Yeah.
And to the new people in this business, they look at these numbers. They actually look at these numbers and they take them into account.
Like, excuse me, like Frank and Emily, me and we're not going to mention names, but me and Lou know actors that all of a sudden they got 3,000 and then they got 80.
1.5 million followers. And they've done nothing.
80,000, 200,000, and all of a sudden a year later they got 1 million point something
They've
followers.
done nothing. They've done nothing.
And they did
what are they
shit,
following?
But they're paying.
Right.
Because they're paying companies. It's obvious.
But it's sad to even that they could get away with it. That they don't have a ban on that where right?
Well, how about a conscience? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? How about a conscience if you're people just want to try and get ahead, they'll do it any way they can. If things are available to them, they'll available to them.
But getting back to your original question, I mean, it's really hard to say because, it'd be really nice if your children's generation would appreciate live music and music on stage besides Taylor Swift and, and smaller venues. But I don't know. It's hard to say. But that's part of my passion of keeping that alive as best I can. But it's a challenge.
I mean, Beyonce just set some record this week, biggest selling, whatever like that. But if you ask somebody who listens to Beyonce who Lena Horne is, I mean,
forget about
it's crazy. You can't compare a Lena Horne to a Beyonce.
And that's
Lena
another
Horne,
conversation right there because of the corruption that's going on in the music business. We'll save that for another day. But as you said, like when we were younger, Frank, my father brought me to the music store and paid a teacher. Like now, these kids could, if they want to learn, they go right onto YouTube and you can learn any song.
Wait. Let's go back to your father going to a music store and paying a teacher for what?
For me,
for sexual favors? What do you mean?
Yeah, sexual favors. That's how you got yours before.
Music.
No.
Oh, should we open up about Orlando? You had a nice time in Orlando, I hear?
Yeah, no, listen.
Look at him sweating.
No, my father brought me to the music store, Mode Music in Great Kills. I was 12, and he paid the teacher. My first teacher
for drum lessons.
For drum lessons.
Okay, all right. I want to know what she was getting paid for, John. That's all.
We were talking about music. I'm sorry. I didn't follow. But yeah, nowadays kids could go onto YouTube, but the interest in music back in the day was more than it is now because the kids don't do nothing else but go on their phones, and most of the kids are zombies, right or wrong. If you go by a school, the kids are all on their phone. We were into music. I mean, I was 10 years old. I was buying albums. Elton John. I bought Kiss. I was 10 years old. That was. They don't do that.
Yeah, I think, that's what everybody talks about. There is a cadre of young people that are embracing, to Emily's point, records and things like that. But even dumb phones instead of smartphones, things like non-digital cameras, right? And even typewriters. So that kind of gives me some hope that maybe...
And you love typewriters.
I do like typewriters.
And that's great.
Yeah. I love terrestrial radio, though, too. Yeah. And, if you ask someone under the age of 30 what kind of radio you have, they'll tell you what's a radio, So I wonder about that.
Like me and Frank.
I'm not joking.
If you say
the neighbors across the street, their children were running around my office. They knew what the typewriter was. They didn't know what the radio was. They said, "What's that?"
Like Frank, me and you love a typewriter. I still have a rack system. Do cassettes, records, CDs. So when the kids come over, I try to show them. They're like, that's too much work. But I love my rack system. It's 300 watts. It'll blow the windows out. And hey, you don't like it? So be it.
What were you going to say? I didn't mean to.
No. I was just going to say, have you looked at a child's face when you said to them, you sound like a broken record? They look at you like, what is that?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one. So, John, how was Florida? Let's talk about you for a minute.
Oh, me for a second?
Yeah.
We're going to go.
Do you see that Johnny is glowing, by the way?
I see that, yeah. I can
Johnny
see why.
is at the very start, maybe, of a new relationship in his life, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it's nothing like that.
By the time
this
Florida,
posts, it'll be an
had a
over
nice
with.
time.
No, listen, I went to go visit my cousin Lisa Potenza, and I told Frank about her a while ago. She works for NASA. She retired. Now she's on her second pension with them. She's a...
And you met a nice young lady, and you had a nice time.
I met a cool lady, and we had some fun. We had a good time and a great time, you know. And it was like Fantasy Island. You know, you go there and you come back home and you leave it behind. You know, I don't like long-distance relationships, and right now I'm just on the dating scene, and I'm having fun.
No, I'm happy for you, John, because when I spoke to you today, you told me you had a great time.
Great.
You just got back.
You
I was
guys
happy
know.
because he hasn't, you know, in a little while, so I'm happy for him.
I went through a lot in the last couple of years. I put myself back on the scene, but you know what? The older you get, the harder it is to meet a nice woman, and I'm very fussy, and it's like I got a tolerance of, you know, and that's
why you
me.
don't meet anybody, because you're very fussy and very.
Yeah, but you know what? You could tell right away the 1 or 2 dates whether you want to date them anymore, because you just could, because there's a chemistry that you kind of get. And this is the romantic side of me coming out. But yeah, I'm a romantic. I'm old school. But you know if you want to see this person.
Are you going to keep in touch with this girl?
Yeah, as a friend. You know, like...
Why did you go friend right away?
No, because we are friends.
No, but you just met. Wait a second. No. You just met this girl.
You gotta get to know her.
And you're already in the friend zone?
No, we were friends. What do you want me to do?
No, you weren't friends. You just met her. Be honest. You just met this girl.
What do you want me to do? I know a girl in Ohio.
Yeah, but you had a nice time with this girl.
I know a girl in Texas, and I had a good time with them, too.
But you had a very nice time with this girl. Look at him. He's how ready he is.
Girl at every port.
Wow.
No. If only there was a way to get from New York to Florida.
Like in Star Trek, right, Frank?
Hey, Elon, did you see the thing today with Elon?
No, what?
Well, at the time of the taping of this show, it's a $20 trillion project. But you know, Elon can pull off anything. Elon Musk, he wants to build and it's built on the vacuum system. Like, remember when you would put the vacuum in the bank? You'd put your money in the tube and stuff. He wants to tube it from New York to London. He says you could do it in an hour with this tube system that he wants to build, but it's $20 trillion.
And what do you lay in it?
No, it's going to be like a subway. It's going to be, but it's based on the tube system, the sucking of the sucking and the sucking, whatever. It's the tube system, the tube system. So you could be to Florida like in 4 minutes, maybe. Yeah. When this tube system.
You lost Johnny when you went on about the sucking. He checked out.
You took my mind to another zone.
No, whenever I talk about him and his romantic rendezvous, he gets very sweaty and red. He gets very embarrassed.
No, I don't get embarrassed because, you know, listen, I would like to meet somebody one day because I don't want to be by myself the rest of my life. But if it's going to be aggravation and it's going to be chaos, I'd rather just be me, and that's it. I mean, you know, life is short.
It's true, though.
So many of us.
We never know.
Oh, boy.
Listen, who knows? Who knows who the next...
So you just broke a girl's heart in Florida when she watches the podcast.
She has a lot to deal with, too. Okay. So it's all good.
All right.
You know?
So she's good then. All right. I just was checking in on you.
I appreciate it.
So are we going to get to Johnny Russo and his slippers?
Yeah, let's talk about Johnny Russo, the guy with the Peter Pan slippers that wears no socks.
Pat used to make fun of him.
Nice segue there, John. Very nice.
Yeah,
very nice
segue. She gets credit on that one.
Pat used to laugh. Pat, actually, I believe Gianni opened for Pat a couple times, and Pat used to laugh about his slippers. But Gianni did a show in Vegas. It was in 2022, and
he was a singer, right? Gianni thinks he's a singer, right?
He didn't sing that night. He got up there and spoke about himself and indulged himself.
Oh, I thought he was a singer one time.
Well,
I've seen him sing.
He was. He sang a song or two, and he had a piano player. But Pat was ready to get up and roast him, I'll tell you. And he never introduced Pat or anything. because he probably knew Pat was going to roast him because it was just the worst thing you've ever heard. And I'm not even going to tell you where it was because I don't want to be breaking too many chops tonight. But Gianni Russo called me. He got mad because I didn't invite him to Pat's memorial. But, I just didn't invite him. Mm-hmm. But he had a girl in the room with him. And he was hanging up the phone with me, and he had so much wine, he starts to break my chops before he hung up the phone, and I could hear everything, and it's all recorded on a message.
Oh, my.
Can you believe that?
Shit.
Can we hear it?
Yeah.
I would love to hear that.
It's on the phone somewhere, but I just want to let him know that he screwed that up. Yeah. So anyway, that's Gianni.
He has a podcast that I recently saw, and he has a woman from, where is she from? St. Louis or something like that? And he won't say how they met, and she giggles about it, and it's just like, and I watched one or two of his shows, and she just looks at the camera, doesn't add anything to the show, so I don't know what that's about. Gianni, I have no idea what that's about.
I'm quite fond of Johnny. I like him very much.
Great storyteller, man.
That's what I was exactly going to say.
Yeah.
He is one of the great storytellers of all time. I don't know if any of these stories are true. And you know what? I hope they are, but even if they're not, I'm glad he's still telling them.
He was telling a story about today. He was involved. He brokered the deal. They were selling, the United States government was selling a nuclear submarine. Do you know the story?
Probably.
I think to Japan, and he brokered the deal. This is like in the 60s or whatever like that. And that Japan supposedly got the sub, and they were very pissed off about it because they were like, okay, well, we got the sub, but where are the nuclear warheads?
That's great.
And Johnny says, well, you didn't ask for the warheads. You asked for the submarine. So he says he sold them a submarine without nuclear warheads, and Japan was pissed off about it because they wanted the war. It's just the stories are amazing.
If you read his book, every page in there. Me too.
That's
the greatest book ever written.
No, it is. I have to agree with you.
Marilyn Monroe and all that stuff.
That's the least of it. That's the
Why,
most.
he went with Marilyn Monroe?
Oh, she made him a man. When
He lost his virginity to Marilyn
He was
Monroe.
her shampoo boy.
Yes.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
He was a good-looking guy back in the day.
Absolutely. I think he's still a handsome fella. But there's no way that anybody has done all of the things in one lifetime that he claims to have done in one chapter in that book.
Yeah.
He had a role in the Kennedy assassination. He's known every pope, every president, every mob boss. He was on the last plane out of Iran before the Iranian Revolution. He had an audience with Saddam Hussein, Vladimir Putin. John Gotti sent him to go to get killed by Juan Valdez. Or Pablo Escobar, not Juan Valdez. And he only got out of it by reenacting that scene in The Godfather. There's a whole lot of stuff.
Frank, what's the name of the book? You remember?
It's called The Hollywood Godfather.
Okay.
It's great. I know Johnny's going to watch this and probably get annoyed that he thinks I'm taking a shot at him. I'm not. I cannot recommend the book.
Everybody loves Gianni.
More highly enough.
Me too. I agree.
He's on my waiting list to come on the show, actually. I met him at the Chiller a handful of times. The last time I was there, he gave me his number. I reached out to him a couple of months ago, and I told him in the new year I'll get him on.
Terrific. Well,
but you're gonna have him on
You should.
by yourself because it's once he goes and it's done.
And
it's
he's got a lot of
story time,
stories.
story out. But they're great stories. They're great stories. They're great stories.
We'll have to get the...
Great stories.
Yeah, he claims that he brokered the meeting between Marlon Brando and John Gotti. He claims that he brokered the deal to get Marlon Brando to do the movie The Freshman, which was apparently his highest payday of all time. There's a lot there.
Did you watch The Offer?
Not yet.
Oh,
I've heard mixed things about it.
It's no mixed things. It's brilliant.
Really?
I think it's brilliant.
You'll like it.
I'm glad to hear that.
No,
And
you'll
they
like
validated the story. The story goes, I was in The Godfather when I was a kid.
I know that, yeah.
And a bunch of my family was in it because my dad was supposed to play Luca Brasi. My dad, Lou Martini Sr., was hired to play Luca Brasi, got sick on the set, had a stroke, and passed away. So this has been a story in my family for many, many years. But again, there's nobody around to tell me that story anymore. So I'm watching this show, The Offer, and they're like 6 or 7 episodes in. And in the middle of one of these episodes, the assistant comes in to Miles Teller, who's playing Al Ruddy, the producer of The Godfather, and says, hey, I got bad news. We just lost the actor that's supposed to play Luca Brasi.
Oh, wow.
And Miles Teller, Al Ruddy, says, what do you mean we lost him? He's on the contract. She goes, no, we lost him. He had a stroke and passed away. Frank, I jumped off the couch about 6 feet to hear it, it was like validation for me. That story that I've always heard since I'm a kid. It's like, there you go. Somebody actually knows the story. You know.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it now. Since you gave it your imprimatur and you were in the film, I will absolutely check it out.
Absolutely. And then I wound up going to the a party and a screening of it, and the actor that played Bob Evans in it. Oh, geez, why am I blanking on Matthew Good? I want to say his name is. Fantastic actor. Made a toast to my dad. And they gave me a signed poster and stuff, and it wound up being a great night, really great night.
I can tell you something I forgot to mention. Actually, I just was appointed the entertainment ambassador to the Las Vegas Walk of Stars and put on the board. We're going to really get that going.
That's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Good for you.
And Pat is getting a star, and we're going to get a star for Sergio Franchi in front of the Flamingo. So that'll be a great project.
That will be great.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah, because some of them have been damaged because of a lot of foot traffic, but it's an important thing to have it there. You know, that'll be part of Pat's legacy,
yeah,
too.
it is interesting. Now, come January, this is going to be the first time in,
not Costa, no.
In, 17 years that a Goodman is not going to be the mayor of Las Vegas anymore. So
That's right.
I'm hoping that Oscar and Carolyn will find something else to do.
No, and they just I just got their Christmas card. It was really cute. It was very clever, and they said, you know, they're just appreciative. They're great people. They're not going anywhere. They'll still be around town. But they've been wonderful. Their spirits are just great, and they always have had a great energy for the town.
That's outstanding.
And Shelley's great too. She's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with her, but I'm a big fan of Oscar. He's just such a character.
He is, and he's a nice man. When Pat died, he called me and he said, "Let me know if there's anything I can do." And they've been really kind to me. But you know, they love that town.
Oh, absolutely. Now, if you walk in my house, you'll see an Oscar Goodman bobblehead doll on my bookshelf.
Really?
He is the greatest. Yep.
Yeah, they're good people. So yeah.
Now, Frank, what's this award you just got honored? You invited me to this Italian-American event a couple last week.
You know, I just, as you know, and this works to everybody's benefit, I just say yes to everything. You know, I just, you know.
He's a nice guy.
No, I just say yes to everything. So Roger Stone, who a lot of people know is a political operative, he was close to Donald Trump. He's a friend of mine for a long time. Okay. And he says to me 2 years ago that he was bringing back the Italian-American Civil Rights League, which was Joe Colombo's organization.
Wow.
And Roger's been claiming to me for the whole time that we know each other that he's Italian. I never believed it until the FBI raided his home before
Roger
dawn.
Stone?
Yeah.
I heard that also, that he is Italian.
Yeah, no, apparently his mother is Italian. So he wanted to bring this back, and I saw that there was something already called the Italian-American Civil Rights League. I said, Roger, not only are you bringing back an organization that is defunct, but you're bringing back an organization that somebody already has. And he says, no, they're not chartered or something. We're bringing it back. So whatever. So I just showed up, and the where they had this ceremony, this party, this was the definition of a speakeasy. It's a nondescript building. You have to walk into a basement.
Get out of here.
Oh, no. You should have been there. I was shocked you were not there.
I wish I was. I was in Florida, though.
And you definitely look at
with
this.
His new lady.
This is out of central casting for a lot of nefarious activity. But it was great. The Baby John, the Cannoli King, was there. They gave me the Jake LaMotta Award. I don't know what I've done to merit this award. But Joe Colombo's son, Chris, was there to talk a little bit about the history of the Italian-American Civil Rights League. Tony Fabrizio and Chris Lasavita, who were part of the Trump campaign, they were there as well. Vito Fasella and a lot of other
Vito
folks.
Was there?
I think there were actually more people in the room who were being honored than were guests in the room. But that was fine. It was a nice party. I was happy to be there.
Was it hot in there? Was it nice and comfortable?
It was the opposite of comfortable. There were, I would say you could fit probably in this room comfortably, maybe 80 people in there. There were at least 140 people in this room. It was brutal.
Hot, right?
Brutal. So there was a back patio, so I spent most of my time outside.
You smoke
on the
a cigar?
Back patio. I didn't, because I had to be on the air that night. I didn't want to get all scratchy. But it was a fun event. I'm going to go back next year.
That's great. 2025 is going to be a good year for everybody. I believe it could.
Absolutely.
Donald
and if it's
Trump,
not, we'll give you your money back.
Donald Trump looks good, and that's all we could do is hope for the best. Well, Frankie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Johnny. A real treat to be here with all of you, but especially Emily.
And Emily, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
It was fun.
And then we're going to be seeing you soon. before we launch our new podcast, when it's officially, like now we're banking everything, me and Lou are going to be on your show. We'll promote it in a
Absolutely.
couple weeks.
You have an open invitation. You both.
Yes.
It goes for everybody. You all know that.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yes. So
Fantastic.
where can people find you, Frank, if people want to?
People can listen live every night, every morning, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., WABCRadio.com, or on the radio in a lot of great stations around America, or on the podcast. Just search The Other Side of Midnight on any podcast app, and you could listen to the show whenever you want to listen to it.
And what about you, Emily?
Well, my show, all the information of that will be on my Instagram at Emily's Las Vegas.
Okay.
So I've had that for a while, but we also have one for Pat and his legacy. That's a verified Instagram account that he and I started back during COVID. So there's some fun stuff on there.
And where can I get the book again?
Wait, it's at the Pat Cooper is the Instagram. The book you can get on Amazon or in my
Amazon.
closet.
Okay. Great. Fantastic.
I'll give you one.
Fantastic. Oh, yes.
I'm
I
giving
want
you
one.
one.
I want one.
Yeah.
Get me?
And I can speak to Steve and get him to sign it for you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, he's a pisser.
Steve's coming on soon, isn't he?
Steve's supposed to do some voiceovers for me, Steve.
Steve, you're coming on. We're going to break some balls, and you'll be able to break our balls, too. Don't worry
After you
about
do my voiceovers, Lou Martini, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
it. Always. I'm here. I'm here for you.
To good things in the future, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm Johnny P, a.k.a. Johnny Potenza, and we'll see you soon. And don't forget, whose balls you going to bust tonight? Take care.